Support for Just Seen It comes from Fandor, dedicated to supporting independent films and filmmakers. Movies from around the world are available at fandor.com/PTV. Fandor, all for film. 5 programmers live together in Northern California. Richard hits it big with a startup he's created called Pied Piper. But the path to success isn't always easy in Silicon Valley.
Hi, I'm Rachel, and I'm here with Liz and Leah to discuss the HBO original series, Silicon Valley. We've all just seen it.
Well, we saw the first 3 episodes, and I love it, and I don't really have much to say other than that.
Well, you know, I was intrigued by the show. I had seen a lot of trailers for it and billboards all over the city, and I thought, oh, that could be interesting. And I have to say, I'm a little disappointed.
Oh.
I kind of feel like this show feels more like a network sitcom as opposed to an HBO show. From a comedy standpoint, is more interested in demonstrating how tech babble savvy it is, like in an authenticity way.
Which I also love.
Which, as opposed to being clever or funny.
I was a biology major. I went to Cornell. I hung out with engineers. Like, these people are those people.
Okay.
And there's different shades of them. So at least I like that this does feel more authentic.
With what you're talking about with its very insider information script, the first episode struck me like that, and I was sitting there, and they were talking about Hooli, and they were talking about all these, companies that are very similar to companies that are out there right now.
Right.
And it went over my head, and I was really lost, and I don't really even know what a programmer does, and I didn't even know if they really were programmers. I was very confused. But once it got past that first pilot episode, I was like, okay, it's not really about this, and I don't really have to understand technology or startups or Silicon Valley to enjoy the show.
And he somehow figured out a way to do a search on a compressed data space. Yeah, and I don't think he even realizes what he has here. He's using it for some silly songwriter app.
All these guys are like that. They're all about consumer-facing.
Right, but you take something like this, make it business-facing, and use it for enterprise, the applications could be endless.
See, this guy Richard, he is Thomas Middleditch. He's no Jesse Eisenberg. Can we just say that?
Well, Jesse Eisenberg isn't Jesse Eisenberg
I
anymore.
never thought I would see an actor that made me long for Jesse Eisenberg and Michael Cera. I never thought I would ever, and DJ Qualls for that matter. He mumbles when he talks.
Yes, it's so
I don't
funny.
buy any of his discomfort with his own body, and so I don't buy any of it. Because as we progress in this series, I find the way that his character shifts happens a little too suddenly or abruptly for me.
Yeah, I don't like that. I mean, we all know that, okay, he's going to have to run a company, and so he's going to have to step up. And I would like to see him sort of stay in this muddly area a little bit longer before we go so quickly into here's the arc and here's where the series is going.
It's arcing pretty quick.
But it didn't bother me because he's so socially awkward that when he gets upset,
I
he
feel
still
like
gets
it's
upset.
all put on.
Zach Woods is a very sweet guy. He's the tall, sort of gangly guy who he came from the
Jordan,
enemy
the one
side.
that came over,
or
defected.
Jared.
Jared.
Whose real name is something completely different, Donald.
Donald, right. I like him. I like him a lot.
Too. I think
was
he's going to
actually
become really funny.
I was kind of hoping there would be a relationship between Richard and Jared Donald, but
Me and Rich have just always kind of like been in this together,
But to be clear, Richard created the algorithm on his own, yes?
Oh yeah, I had nothing to do with that.
He's my best friend.
That's true.
I don't think that the CEO of Microsoft has a paid best friend.
Sergey Brin does.
See?
But I never thought there was anything really hip about Mike Judge's work up until this point. I mean, you look at Office Space, which is it's this very bland, awkward, dry comedy, in its own little world. Then you look at his animation projects, and it's like, this really feels like a relevant, modern TV show.
But that's only because nerdism has become relevant and modern.
Well, I think I like it. It was very smart of him to co-opt that idea for this show and then the look of the show also is like, it looks like a cool show. It feels like a cool show. It's bringing him into...
It feels very static to me.
Oh,
very
man.
static in its composition and in the way that we set up that world, which is okay.
Sure.
I mean, if you watch a courtroom show or anything there's a lot of standard camera shots, but stuff is moving back and forth in front of it. I didn't think there was anything particularly innovative about the way that this show is put together.
It just feels contemporary compared to his other work. That's really the point I'm trying to make, is that you look at his other projects, it didn't seem like he was trying to be marketable or fresh. And then here it's like, oh, he's trying to plug himself into that right HBO audience.
I think this is part of HBO's paying attention to that there is a demographic out there called the millennials, and they're making sure that they have programming that will attract the millennial generation, which is preoccupied with a kind of a neuroses and a worry about themselves and their future and stability, and and so I think it's on the heels of Girls. We see now what HBO thinks about millennial boys in the form of Silicon Valley.
I love a show that exposes an audience to a new world authentically. See it.
Currently, Silicon Valley is not destination viewing. However, its audience will eventually merge from the shadows and the corners and their hovels. So I say stream it.
Silicon Valley is a show to get excited about, so I say see it.
Well, our votes add up to 2.5 tickets, which is a see it for Silicon Valley.
Cheers.
Cheers! What I want to know is why the black girl has to be the stripper.
Well, the whole show is all white.
Riddle me
babe.
that.
Just Seen It is made possible by Adobe and the Adobe Creative Cloud, including Adobe Premiere Pro, Photoshop, and After Effects. More information is available at bit.ly/AdobePTV.